They,
Oh, you go ahead, please.
I can't. Yeah, you'll have to. Delete that. I can't see.
Okay.
It's okay.
Too small for you?
No. There was something on the screen. They do the destruction of the defilements of the mind, just as the various parts of an army, such as elephants, cavalry, war chariots, and archers, bring about one result: the conquest of opposing army. Well put, Nagasena. You are clever in reply.
I think we stop there. Yes. Yeah. Yes. Yeah. So you got the idea, this?
Oh, yeah. Yes, I'm not really sure where you guys left off last week. I'm thinking that this is still doctrine of no self.
We didn't go very
Yeah.
far.
Oh,
So it's about the same.
okay. So unsatisfactoriness is dukkha, right?
Yeah, sorry, this continue with the wisdom. And it say that is destruction of defilement when we have the wisdom, right? This is number 14, connect with number 15 here.
So those are I guess the different characteristics that to cultivate and investigate in the no self doctrine. Also, I guess in a lot of the Vedic stuff, like just kind of contextually, that the reason they would use armies and elephants, and because a lot of the Hindu scripture was also written in context of like war with the self, so that's I'm assuming that's why that was the context.
Yeah,
that was used.
Can you sorry, can you give me a moment? I concern that other people would not receive the email. Let me send one more times the email to them. Yeah, sorry. Give me a moment. I need to send one more time the email. Okay, let me go back here. Let me share the screen one more time. All right, we go to thank you, Mr. Kirsten. So we move to chapter 2. It's very interesting. Is the talk about the birth. George, would you mind to read number 1, please?
He who is reborn, Nagasena, is he the same person or another? Neither the same nor another. Give me an illustration. In the case of a pot of milk, it turns first something to butter, then to ghee. It would not be right to say that the ghee, butter, and curds were the same as the milk, but they have come from that, so neither would it be right to say that they are something else.
Mm. Yeah. You got the idea? Mm.
Well, they all come from the same place and they're all part of each other, but they have different external sort of traits. But they all depend on the milk. Like they are all milk, but they're in different forms.
Mm. So again,
I have something to add to this.
yes, please.
So it's, okay, this is maybe some fancy terminology for you guys, but this is with, so like with karma, they considered that conditioned volition. Okay.
Okay.
That's,
Mm.
I guess the English phraseology of that.
Mhm. So, Francis, what do you think about reincarnation?
Like, what do I believe about it?
Mhm.
I mean, I'm not I consider myself like agnostic. I don't really know what to believe about it. I kind of came to Buddhism because I thought, I don't think it's as like, I think it's more like philosophical, I guess. I like the philosophy behind it, and I think it's all more practical than I guess like Christianity and Catholicism. Like, I want to explore that. So like the reincarnation part, kind of, I haven't really accepted that, I guess. I'm still like willing to learn about it, but
Mhm.
I don't like 100% believe it.
Okay.
I also can't say that it's not true, because
It's hard, right? Mm-hmm. How about Kaylee?
Reincarnation. Okay. I think of it two ways. First is my current life is that all the things I've been through, I've been a completely different person. Like I've changed. I've always been myself, but I've still changed. I've grown. And then if we're talking about after death, then yes, because when I die, if I'm buried, I'm going to go into the ground and I'm going to feed the ground, and the ground is going to feed the worms, and the worms are going to feed the birds, and the birds are going to feed the bigger predators, and those are going to feed people, and then a person's going to die. And so there's that cycle. But I do think a piece of my karma is going to go on somewhere, somehow,
Mm-hmm.
as well. And it'll still be me, but not me.
Okay.
I'll
So
get to
is
eat.
that the belief you have when you were young or recently?
When I was a child, my father is a Methodist minister.
Oh,
So
wow.
I was not allowed to believe anything other than heaven and hell. So, but when I became a teenager and Buddhism just made a lot of sense to me because I had a lot of depression. When I found the Four Noble Truths, I said, aha, this makes so much sense. And so about my teen years is when I started to believe in reincarnation and karma.
Wow, that's wonderful. Josh, so what do you think? Is this about reincarnation in your views?
It kind of has always felt right to me. It's sort of, I didn't have a lot of any other upbringing, so I was allowed to kind of believe whatever I wanted to as a kid. And it seems to make the most sense to me. So I've always just kind of, it clicks. It feels right.
Yes. Yeah, Miss Glory, you can share your idea what you think about reincarnation in so far.
I think like what like in the first, I don't know, like the paragraph that's yeah, I think like they talk something about the reincarnation, and then as a Buddhist, I do believe in reincarnation and the karma. What they talk about the pot of milk, I think everything just they have the same origin, and then it just was born, and then it's just like the cycle. This life, because of what we did in the past life, and then we receive what we receive in this life is what we did in the past life, and then what we are doing this life gonna produce the karma into the next life. So everything, just we only have a one soul, but just appear and then reborn in different like realms, like some, if we got a good thing, and then at this life we reborn as the human, but we did something wrong, next life maybe in the animal something, but the soul and everything, it's just us. It's never changed.
Yeah, I think it's better for us to read the next one here. You might read number 2, please. Yeah.
Me?
Yes, please. Yeah.
Okay. Is the man who will not be reborn aware of the fact? Yes, O king. How does he know it? By the cessation of all that is the cause and condition of rebirth. As the farmer who dare not blush and sow or reap, would not that his granary is not getting filled up. The third one.
Yeah, can you summarize what you understand about this?
Let me see. So I think so if we I don't know if I understand this correctly or not, but if you, this the man who will not be born aware of the fact. So if we don't want to be rebirth, so we have to end all the cause and then the condition to cause the rebirth. That's what that means.
Yeah, that's right. I used to give analogy of our cell phone when we were little, right? We didn't know anything about cell phone, right?
Yeah.
Probably 10 years or 20 years from now. But now cell phone is part of our life. What happens if we break it? What happens if it drop into the water? There's no use of that kind of cell phone at all, right? But would we stop to use a cell phone at all? Ethan Lam, welcome back, Ethan Lam. How you been, Ethan?
I've been good. Driving to Atlanta right now, but I still want to participate and listen in.
Wow, that's good then. Oh, okay. All right, welcome back then. So, so what do you think about the question here? What do you think when you break your cell phone and your phone could not be used anything more? Would you stop to use your cell phone? And would you look for other cell phone to use?
I would just look for another.
Yes, that idea. All right, so we get use of things that we use, right? That's one of the example. So when we're done with this life, we look for another life until we retire. So in this passage, we say that if someone who will not be reborn aware of the fact, yes, someone that get out the reverse cycle, they recognize and they would not dread any condition for rebirth. That's mean attachment. So the attachment is the main cause for us to be reborn here, to get stuck here, like the example of the cell phone. Francis, it makes sense?
Yeah, I can I ask like a question?
Yes, what the question?
So like if we aren't aware of, I guess, what we did wrong in the past and like in our past life, I guess how could we be considered responsible for that?
Here, forget the past life. How about Could you remember something you have done when you were little? Could you remember all? Could you remember all of them?
No, not all.
No. You may remember some, all right?
Mhm.
Some critical things, right? All right. You may have broken the door, for example, right?
Yeah.
Something is so obvious that you could remember, but little thing you could not. But would the karma follow you? Let's put this way. Let's say, Kelly, you teach the first grader, right?
Yes.
So let's say one of your students mess up something, right? Let's say break the chair and so forth. So what do you think? Would they remember for the rest of their life? If they break
Probably
the
not.
chair? Probably not. Even this life, probably not, because it's too little. Plus, it's so trivial, right? It's not much important for them to remember. But what happened? Let's say the children in Ukraine now, the war going on now, right? Something so critical that imprint in their mind. When they get older, they still remember the war going on now. Make sense, Francis? You understand my points?
I mean, I guess like, yeah, I didn't really understand like how it I don't know, did
So my point is that forget about
like
the
how we
past
can't
life.
remember it?
Was that forget about the past life, because it's not easy for us to remember the past life, but we'll talk about this lifetime. So that's
Okay.
why I bring up the memory that we may have since we were little, right? Only some critical things we could remember, right? But for other things, it's not easy for us to remember. But whichever thing we did in the past, I mean, that in this lifetime, last 10 years, 20 years, and so forth, it still affect to us now.
Yeah.
That's what I mean, right?
Yeah.
Like when you were in high school, right? You did good grade. You have good grade. You have good grade for SAT and SAT and so forth. That's why you will accept you, right? Otherwise, you will not be now in college. So of course, when we talk about the past life, we don't know. That unknown things that is not easy for us to remember. But sometimes, if we have some kind of wisdom, we can recognize or we can feel that, right? Right. So let's say what we call about first impression. You heard about that first impression with someone else, right? When we have first impression, that person, right away, we feel that we have some type of connection, affection with them, right? Kelly and Josh, right? When you first met, right? First impression, right? You hope you have that kind of affection on the spot to compare with others, and in the opposite way, when we met someone else, first impression is that somehow we feel that we need to stay away from that person. You understand that? So in Buddhist view, it's this kind of what we call energy never lost. It transforms from one form to others. Like the cups can be transformed in a plastic cup. And you look at the 3D printing there, right there, look there, 3D printing there. We use the plastic, we can recycle them to make another thing, another plastic cup, right? But in different forms, make sense?
Yeah.
So when we're done with this life in Buddhist view, we're done with this physical form, but we move on to another form of life. But our energy, our habitual patterns, our thinking, and so forth, is still there in our mind. Make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Anand, so we discussed this thing before, Anand.
Yes, hello, Thầy. Yeah, I missed a few classes recently, but
Yeah.
I really anticipate to read this the passage or this whole chapter or book that you sent out. That's sound very fascinating for me. but I did not have a chance to read it. But listening to everyone talk discussion about rebirth and reincarnation, I'm also learning about Buddhism. But as a child, I was brought up in the tradition of Buddhism, and I heard a lot about it, of rebirth and karma. But when I get older now, I start to realize, karma to me, in order to stop the recycle of rebirth or reincarnation, that is the fundamental belief that in Buddhism I believe, and I have a faith in, that in order to stop that recycle of birth, rebirth, then you have to stop or detach or no longer be attached to all these attachment that we hear and talk about previously. The non-self, the attachment to things, material things, to anger, and all the things that we hear about, the bad things. If we're able to do that, then we're no longer in the cycle of rebirth, of suffering, and so on and so forth. So I can believe that as well. So that is the practice of Buddhism in practicality, is the practice of non-attachment. And the more we practice, and like we have been talking about, the 1 minute meditations, things like that the master teach us, then we're able to learn how to help us address anger, attachments, suffering. And so as we get better and better, hopefully at some point in this life or next life or many lives later, that we remember. It's kind of like a bicycle. And I think someone talked about earlier, how would we know if we don't remember? Well, it's just kind of like a bicycle. If you learn enough, that it become a muscle memory. So even though you don't remember the past life, but whatever you do right now is what will determine what you will be in next life. Okay, so don't worry about what you worry about last life, but you should worry about what right now. So for me, is to see where I would be, is to look at what I'm doing right now. So like a bicycle, I already know, even though I don't remember, but when I go to a temple, there's some energy that Tai talk about, that I feel I'm closer to the temple and I'm away from it. And I felt that there's something that I remember, but I don't know why. So that is the energy that kind of like remembering how to do how to ride a bicycle. It's in your memory, in your system, in your karma, that it brought you back. This energy that brought you back, and so you remember some of it. The good things that scar you, or the good things that can stick with you, or the karma, will be the things that we carry on from here to the next life. And so when you see something similar, kind of like the energy like in the antenna, you will be able to kind of gravitate toward that antenna or the radio station, the frequency. If you're in the right frequency, we all gravitate toward that same energy, and therefore we remember, do the right things, the good things, and then we continue on with that cycle. If we're able to detach it, then we eventually will be able to kind of get out of that cycle. So that's why I'm kind of thinking in my own little mind about Buddhism and trying to learn and practice. Thank you, Thầy.
Yeah, thank you. So anyway, yeah, let's just move on. Yeah. Josh, would you mind to read number 3, please?
In one Nagasena, in whom knowledge something arises, does wisdom, something else, also arise? Yes, O king. Is knowledge the same as with wisdom? Yes, O king. Then would he with his knowledge and wisdom be in ignorance about anything?
Let's see here. Let's see. We go back here. You understand about this? You understand that this passage?
Yes, I think so. You have to have both knowledge and wisdom to move forward. Like it seems like once you get one, the other one comes with it.
Yeah.
That they're tied together in some way.
So he say about the knowledge same as wisdom, right? According to him, right? Then would he, with his knowledge and wisdom, be ignorant about anything? And it's okay. Yeah, probably this one is more. This is clarify more. Let's see here. Kelly, would you like to read this, Kelly?
He would still be in ignorance about the things he had not yet learned, but regarding what had been accomplished by wisdom, that is the perception of impermanence, unsatisfactoriness, and soullessness, he would not be ignorant. Then what would have happened to his delusions on those points? From the moment when knowledge arises, delusion passes away. As when the light comes, darkness disappears. But then what has become of his wisdom? When wisdom has accomplished its task, then it disappears. But his understanding of impermanence, unsatisfactoriness, and soullessness does not disappear.
Mm-hmm. Is that clear now?
So he would still be ignorant if about things that he's never come across.
Mm-hmm.
But anything that has been learned through wisdom will remain. And the knowledge and wisdom are connected because I don't know why.
Yeah, so when we have the wisdom according to Buddhist view, right? We need to recognize the perception of impermanence, right? Remember, I think we discussed last time, the wisdom is different from the intelligence, right? The wisdom, but we see the things as the way they are, right? We see things, we recognize the impermanence principle, we recognize unsufficientness and egolessness here. Yeah, that's just what about in Buddhism always talk about the wisdom in that sense. The wisdom does mean that we can develop atomic bomb to kill people. That's not the wisdom. The wisdom, as we realize, life is impermanence, life is insufficientness, or what it called sufferance. So that's why I think we discussed last time, right? So it's based on the standard that when we don't have the wisdom, we rate the suffering for ourselves. We discussed last time, right, Josh? Right? And if we have the wisdom, we rate the happiness and peacefulness for ourselves. That's simple. That's the basic standard. That's why Buddha provided this kind of teaching for us to bring back our peacefulness and happiness in life. But of course, for other people, yes, they can be intelligent, right? They can create all kinds of things, but maybe harmful for others. That's what the whole scheme is about. That's what the whole view is about. Miss Kirsten, right?
Yeah. Well, I was just looking up those Pali words. Okay, so those Pali words is prajna or pana, which this is just the Google. Translated as wisdom or intelligence or understanding. It is described in Buddhist commentaries as the understanding of the true nature of phenomena.
Yeah. So what's the true nature of phenomena? What do you think?
Well, good question. It depends on which sense contact you have.
Mm-hmm.
So, of course, everything has Buddha nature, but whatever your sense contact is where you it comes into your what's that? I lost my words.
How you perceive it.
How you perceive it, your perception.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So again, the idea is that let's say whichever water we drink, like 2 cups they put on the table, if it's helpful, it's beneficial, we use them. But if something that's harmful, something that brings the suffering to us, that go against to the nature that we don't know of, that's what we call ignorance. But when we recognize that's what we have the wisdom, right? Like last time we mentioned, okay, let's say today, right, the weather is so nice. What happened? Let's say tomorrow it's snow, it's cold, right? And someone could not accept that. No, we are the spring now. How could we have snow? But if we recognize that life is permanent, that's the wisdom there. We accept that. Make sense, Francis? You follow me?
Yeah.
The wisdom is to recognize things as the way they are. The wisdom that recognizes the impermanence of things. Or the suffering of things, so that we can find the happiness on opposite side. That's what we talk about here in Buddhist view about wisdom. You follow that?
Yeah.
Okay, so let's just move on then. Let's see here. Oh, okay, this is wow. Let's see. And then you driving, right? You cannot read, right? You get home yet?
No, I'm in the car and I'm waiting for my son at the in my car on my phone, so I'm difficult to read. I can I can zoom in, I can read it, but
that's okay. You don't, please. That's okay. Yeah, we can take turn to it. Miss Kirsten, would you like to read the last part, please?
Okay, where is it?
Give me an inspiration.
Give me an illustration. As a man who wants to write a letter at night would have a lamp lit and then write the letter. Then he would put out the lamp, but through the lamp, but though the lamp had been put out, the letter would remain. So he write you can't see the letter without the illumination, but it's still there, whether it's illuminated or not. So that would be the true nature of phenomena, but the illumination, of course, is understanding.
Oh, so after he wrote the letters, right? The letter still remain there, right? Okay. Hi, Tammy. How you been, Tammy?
Good.
Good. So yeah, we discussed about the debate of the King Milanda. You learned before or no?
No, I haven't learned before.
Would you mind to read number 4, please, Tammy?
Sure. Does he who will not be reborn feel any painful feeling? He may feel physical pain, O king, but not mental pain. If he feels painful feelings, then why doesn't he just die and attain the extinction of grasping and put an end to suffering? The arhat has no fondness for or aversion to life. He does not shake down the unripe fruit, but awaits the time of its maturity. For this was said by Venerable Sariputta, the Buddhist chief disciple. It is not death nor life I cherish. As the hearling his wage, so I bid my time. It is not death nor life I long for. Mindful and clearly comprehending, I bid my time.
You understand this, Precious?
So if you're not going to be reborn, then you don't feel physical pain, but you still have, you wouldn't have any pain at all. If he feels,
yeah.
So they're saying if he doesn't feel any pain, then why doesn't he just die and go to nirvana, basically? And he's explaining that the arhat doesn't care either way. He doesn't care if he lives or he dies. He has no attachment to living or dying. Just like a fruit, he's not going to shake the fruit off the tree before it's ripe. Or somebody that's earning a wage, like you can't just go and claim your wage without earning it. So they're willing to kind of be patient and wait for the right timing.
Yeah, so this one is talk about arhat, the one that have no attachment, anything. Like they still have the physical pain, but not the mental pain, because they're free of mental fluctuation, mental affliction, of stress, anxiety, depressions. So that's why I used to ask my students, suppose that you see someone on the street that doesn't have any stress, anxiety, and so forth. Francis, what do you think about that person?
I guess he's like able to look at things in a way that allows him to not have that. Just
I mean,
like talking about here.
how you feel about that person, the person who doesn't have any stress,
Wow.
any anxiety, any anger, and so forth. What do you think about that person?
I want to learn from that guy, see like how he looks at things.
What's that?
So I want to learn from that guy.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Maybe jealous as well.
No. If he doesn't have any more jealousy, anger, anxiety, and so forth, what do you think about that person? When you meet that person, what do you think?
Well, like, I mean, I think he's like probably. I mean, if he's learned to deal with all that, then he's probably pretty smart.
Yeah. So if let's put this way, that's the whole purpose of practicing meditation or learn Buddhism. What happens if we remain calm in every situation? Right? Like Kelly, let's say in the classroom, how many students do you have?
23.
23. Let's say you remain calm no matter what happened, no matter what your student yelling, talking, or so forth. What do you think about that movement?
They would think I went crazy, that I lost my mind. Something horrible that happened to me.
But I mean that for ourselves, if you can control yourself, if you can maintain that calmness and peacefulness, regardless of what your students run around, yell at each other, and so forth and so forth. What do you think? Our own self, what do you think about that movement? The movement that we're so calm, no matter what they say, no matter what they mess up.
I want to know how to be like that. How do I stay calm through all of that? I don't know.
To a peace.
Yeah. But let's assume that your mind is so calm, so peaceful, no matter what kind of mess up that your student do, or regardless of what they yell at each other and so forth. Let's assume you have that kind of peace of mind.
Okay.
What do you think about that movement?
I don't know. It's hard to imagine. I have a very hard time imagining that. Yeah.
Miss Kirsten, have you had that kind of state mind before? That kind of movement before?
Well, I have carefully studied people like the Naga sadhus in India. You know, they're only allowed to like wear a loincloth. They're not allowed to sleep on literally anything, no possessions. Literally, I mean, less than Buddhist monks we're talking about. And to be able to, and they take long vows of silence. And so, of course, there's the part of me that says, what is that process to get so still? So I'm an emotional, sensitive person, but every time that starts to register, I'm like, well, you know, and then I start trying to deconstruct it of course, in a Buddhist path, but I think, you know, these Hindu mendicants or whatever also have lead pretty extreme forms of that and training that you can find peace and happiness and it's just in your head. It's not about the external world necessarily. That's your relationship.
Well, George.
I am not that steady for sure.
Yeah, George, what do you think about that movement? Have you had that type of movement? The movement you might so calm, you might so peaceful. Have you had that movement?
The only thing that I've ever, the experience that I think I've had that's close to that is when there's like an emergency or like a crisis going on, like a kid is hurt or something. Like for some reason, I can usually like shift down and be calm. And like, because I have to be, because everything's going on. That seems easy in that circumstance, but the rest of the time, it's a lot harder. It's not as easy. So that's as close as I think. I mean, I want to foster that. I hope that the students I work with feel that way, that I'm like that all the time, but I know inside I'm not. Maybe on the outside I try.
Thank you. About Tammy, have you had that type of movement before?
So I have those moments more and more now that I've been studying Buddhism. Before I studied Buddhism, no, was very reactive. You know, it had that came to anger real quick and would overreact all the time. But I've noticed the more I study Buddhism, the easier it is, no matter what situation comes up. Like today, I had an issue where I came home, I had somebody coming to clean the gutters, I had a phone interview, and I came home and locked my keys in the car. So not only my keys to my car, but my keys to my house. It was cold this morning, you know, and so everything was kind of hitting at once. And I've been meaning to replace my key fob for a long time because it's been messed up. I replaced the battery, didn't fix it, but I didn't overreact. You know, I called the landlord. I'm like, can you bring, and they couldn't bring me a key. They're like, send somebody. And I'm thinking, who am I going to send? And so, but I worked it all out where I got the guy that was coming to do the gutters to stop by and pick up the key. So it really resolved itself very easily and it all kind of flowed through very nicely. And I got into the house like 2 minutes before my phone interview. But before, a year ago, if that had happened, I mean, I would have just been bawling my eyes out. I wouldn't have been able to handle it. But today, and then my whole day would have been ruined. But today, it just, everything fell into place and I just kept rolling with it. And it wasn't, you know, I'm like, okay, you really need to get your key fob replaced now. Like the universe is screaming at you, you need to do this now. But I didn't blame anybody else. I took responsibility. I didn't get down on myself and my day just kept going. So yeah, it's made a big difference.
Oh, that's wonderful. Yeah, thank you. Thanks for sharing. It's not easy, right? When you lost your key, when you lock your key in the car, you'd be nervous, especially when you have the interview coming up, right?
Well, and I was just happy because I didn't have the kids. I kept trying to think on the positives. Well, at least I don't have my kids with me, you know, and it's at least it's a phone interview. I can do that outside. So I really kept looking for the positives and just how everything really, you know, at first it seemed horrible, but it really just worked out nicely.
Yeah. Wow, that's wonderful.
I think for me too, the more I study and practice Buddhism, I certainly get longer glimpses of equanimity. Like, of course, now, of course, I have this understanding of what equanimity is. Obviously, a very clear path how to achieve it. So I found pretty quickly that once I really started studying and understanding how to get equanimous, and it happens more often. It happens a lot more often than when it, like Tammy said, that just whatever used to set me off, and now I can have all kinds of crazy stuff happen and really not externally come unglued.
Thank you.
So it is the thing is like everything is when it happened, it's already happened. And then matters is just the way we see it and then how we respond to it instead of just react. It's the matter because we need to be calm and then be mindful. And like so when we have the calmness and then mindfulness, so everything just go just like the flow, and then it's don't bring us the pains or suffering because everything is just the way how we feel and then how we think about it. It's not the way like it's happened.
Mhm. Yeah, that's why we talk about the difference between the pain and the suffering. When we fall down, it's painful. But if we prolong that pain, we complain about that pain, there is suffering there. So that's a suffering come from the mind. And then you have that moment, the moment your mind so peaceful, your mind so calm, regardless of things happening.
I think that I'm kind of similar to what Tammy is saying. I think as you truly practice Buddhism, you start to realize there's times and moments very difficult, that before that you react very quickly. And now you kind of realize things happen. Things already past the water, under the bridge. There's not much you can change, but it's how, you react to, from that point on, how you view things, how you react to things, how you solve things. And there are times when I see major things happen in my life. I see a lot of rash reactions, like in my mind, flowing through like a fast train, noise everywhere, but when I kind of realize that moment there, even though all the pain, all the things are going through your mind, like the fast and furious, but at that moment, I can feel there's two different lanes. Either I jump onto that lane and I attach to it and go with it, then everything will be chaos. But if I choose to kind of sit on the other lane, the peaceful lane, the quiet lane, the quietness lane, then things I can see everything. I can see what other people would do, how other things would happen. So that the glimpse, that's actually a long period of time that I experienced in my life, and it does help me a lot. It helped me tremendously to not prolong the suffering, like Thai or Cleo was talking about. How you react to it is very important, and that suffering will reduce significantly right away. You can feel right away. You feel peaceful, even though those moments are not really, you cannot compare it to, because it come and goes very limited in our own life. My life is very limited, so it's not happened every day, but it's when it happened, you cannot compare it to other things. So how would I know that is real? And sometimes we self-doubt, is that a real thing? If normal people react to that, I would say if you don't practice Buddhism, you will not feel that. But if you talk to a normal 98% of people who are not practicing Buddhism routinely, then they would probably react very normally. So I would say it's very helpful for me to have that Buddhism practice.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, Ethan, you recognize the difference between the pain and the suffering when we fall and we prolong that pain. You understand that, Ethan?
I do understand that because I guess I'm gonna make a confession. I recently, or of recent memory, have kind of fallen back into that path of like not being able to let go and to prolonging that suffering. I guess one example was just an interpersonal relationship within my life has ended so abruptly, and I definitely felt all the emotions that came with it, but then I prolonged it because I guess of like that sort of over attachment, like what could I have done differently? What did I do wrong? How could I have gone about this differently so this doesn't happen again, but then I was too focused and attached to it that it took me a very long time for me to start to let go and to accept the situation as it is. And I'm trying to do the same thing today, where I had a really rough week and rough day at work, and I held on to those emotions rather than just allowing myself to feel it and then let it pass and move on. I still clung on to it. And so this is something that I'm still trying to practice within my own life. And
Yeah, that's more
so,
important.
yeah.
Thank you. Yeah, go back the question, like I can mention that what happened when we're so calm, when we're so peaceful at that moment, what happened then? We have more wisdom to see things at the way they are, right? Regardless of the levels of student, right? Whether they first grader, high school, or college, right? If we have calmness, we could see them as the way they are. We would not be persuaded or influenced by how they say. You follow that, right? How they say, how they are. But we see them as a way, like when we watch the movies, we see all characters. They act up for real, or they just act up so that they can show up. You understand that? So my point is that that's a wisdom we have there when we remain calm and peaceful in our mind. If people act up, we recognize. If they tell us the truth, we recognize. Otherwise, if we let our emotion to flow with them, to be influenced by how they act, how they talk, how they yell each other, for example, we would not recognize why, or the reason why they act up like that way. It makes sense, right, Miss Kirsten? Right? That's why in meditation we train ourselves to be observer,
Right.
not to engage in the conversation, not to engage in the stream of thoughts, to recognize, to observe them as the way they are, to observe the scene, to observe the movie, or even when we sit in the theater place, right? We observe how they sing the opera, how they act, and so forth.
Yeah.
Mm. Yeah.
You definitely start to see how things, and I noticed this particularly when we had the retreat here, where I was sitting longer days, that I really noticed that certain like cycles of thoughts would come. So like maybe the first 15 minutes I would, at lots of agitation, restlessness, whatever. And then, probably so far through the meditation, like maybe this other feeling or like whatever I've been studying starts spitting out. But I started noticing that there are very specific patterns that come and go in my own conditioning, even if I'm just sitting with my eyes closed, that I really see how these things come about and how they go, and really how much of that is just part of this condition but learning to let all that go. I found that that's definitely a muscle. Like it used to be just so hard to let a lot of stuff go, and now that I have it's so much easier to go say, okay, that's there, and then understand that if I put my attention or concentration on something else, that those other habits and conditions can fall off.
So Francis, you follow some conversation. You
Yeah.
see how important the peacefulness, a calmness in our mind, right?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
So important, right? Mm-hmm. So Okay, so thank you. Let's us move on to the next process. Again, this is just why it is so important for us to have this kind of understanding in practical sense, not in theories, but in practical sense too. Yeah, let's see here. Let's see here. George, would you mind to read the next one, please? And then we'll find it.
Is a pleasant feeling wholesome, unwholesome, or neutral? It may be any one of the three, but surely, Venerable Sir, if wholesome conditions are not painful and painful ones are not wholesome, then there can be no wholesome condition that is at the same time painful. What do you think, O king? If a man were to hold in one hand a hot iron ball and in the other a ball of ice, would they both hurt him? Indeed they would. Then your hypothesis must be wrong. If they are not both hot, but the heat hurts, and they are not both cold, but the cold hurts, then the pain does not come from the heat or the cold. I am not able to argue with you. Please explain the matter.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. You understandable?
I'm trying to untangle it in my brain.
Do you know what feeling tone is?
No.
Okay.
Will you tell me?
Okay. So feeling. So in independent arising, the way conditions. When you have a contact with a whatever sight, sound, they all come in. You take them in, and when it hits your mind, depending on your past karma, anything, the feeling tone, pleasant, unpleasant, neutral. It's very like if you study Vipassana, that's very clearly laid out in.
So
I think the misunderstanding comes from the words wholesome and unwholesome, because I think the way we interpret those words are not the same as what is expected for us to interpret there.
Well, so wholesome and unwholesome. So there's the wholesome state of mind, and this also, I feel like a lot of the context would, if you went back and read the Satipatthana Sutta, so you have the wholesome state of mind, which I don't have my notes with me, I can't tell you exactly which they are, and then the unwholesome, which of course is going to cause you suffering. So between you having the feeling tone, the way you interpret the feeling tone would shift you into wholesome states or unwholesome states, or that you would allow the feeling tone to shift you into a wholesome state of mind, unwholesome.
Yeah, probably the net passage will be clear, right? Let's see here. Yeah, this is one here. Yeah, Miss Kirsten, would you like to read this one, please?
Then the elder taught the king Abhidhamma. There are 6 pleasures connected with the world and 6 of renunciation, 6 worldly sorrows and 6 renunciation. The 6th neutral feeling in each case, altogether 36. Then there are 36 feelings in the past, present, and future. So altogether, there are 108 feelings.
That's a lot. Yeah, all right. Anyway, so
I've studied it, so I know what they, I've read them all.
Mhm.
Listen, all 108.
I have read all
Oh, no.
108.
Just kidding.
And the different, well, I do have, I don't think I'm saying it, is it Setskia? I'm not pronouncing it right, but it goes through and it lists all the different combinations of feeling tones, I guess.
Yeah. Anyway, probably this is just the wording. Here, the passage here mentioned about no matter what type of good feeling, the bad feeling is considered as here. One hand you hold a hot iron ball, another hand you hold a bulb ice. So it burns both hands. Good feeling, bad feeling, in a sense that it still disturb your calmness and peacefulness. That's what this means. Does that make sense, Josh? That's what it means. So in meditation, we need to let go of whether it's good or bad feeling, so that we can remain calm and peaceful. That's what the meaning. Because both it still hurt you, good and bad. Because as much as we attach to the good feeling and try to reject the bad feeling, like we attach the iron ball and reject the ball of bright eyes or vice versa, it's still hurtful in this as a contest. Make sense? So in the essence that we need to let go of whether it's good or bad, so that we can remain calm in, let's say, in breath meditation. You follow? Right? So that how we remain calm, how we remain clear in any kind of circumstances, right? So let's say one person calm and praise us, another person calm and criticize us. But like good feeling or that come from the one that praises us, bad feeling that come from the one that criticizes us. So in order to go beyond that, we need to remain calm. Otherwise, we'll be influenced by whoever, whether they praise us or whether they criticize us. And at that moment, I might be more disturbed. I might be chaos when we have that kind of emotion. So that's what it means. Is that understandable now? So that's why he gives that analogy. One hot iron ball, one is the ball of ice. Both burn the hand. If you swing back and forth, it still burn the hand. That's what the meaning. Whether it's this all kind of one-way feeling and so forth. If we swing around with them, if we attach them, we get stuck. Make sense, Francis?
Yeah.
Okay, so since time is up, let's just finish up today. That I know sometimes with wording this may be confusion, right? That's why he's so wise that he used some analogy for the king to understand. Yeah. All right, so let us stop today then. So thank you.